Hey, everybody, what's up? Welcome into the Athletic Fantasy Football Podcast. Here we are on Monday, September 20th, week 2, just about in the books. Got the Monday night game between the Packers and Lions ahead of us, but 15 week 1 games in our rearview mirror. Michael Beller, Brandon Funston, Jake Seeley. We are going to talk about those games with you, take a look ahead to week 3 waivers, talk about some trades, talk about some do we panic on sorts of guys. We got a whole big show ready for you here on this Monday. Funston, how'd week 2 treat you, my friend?
Pretty good. A nice little rebound. I think I remember bringing up the fact that when you lose the opener, like the thought of going to 0-2 is just so daunting. And here I sit with no 0-2 teams, across the board. So I'm very, very happy about how week 2 transpired.
Look at this, Jake. Little humble brag from our buddy up there. No 0-2 teams. Look at me. Look at that. What's going on with you, Jake, in this week 2?
I don't know. Are you gonna week 3? Maybe you stop asking me. I told you I don't check. I don't check until Tuesdays. I'm not like Brandon. I'm not like all over top.
How was your Sunday? Did you have a nice day? Did you enjoy it? What do you like about
I want
the
to do the show. Let's get into the show. That's what I want to do.
All right. Well, let's get into the show again. We got a lot of stuff
fantasy.
to tackle. Let's talk fantasy then. I want to actually start with the last game of the day. It was a pretty fun one between the Ravens and the Chiefs, with the Ravens pulling out that 36-35 win late. Great quarterback play on both sides of that one. Big stats, of course, on both sides of that one. But we don't need to really talk too much about Lamar Jackson or Patrick Mahomes. Who I do want to talk about is the Ravens backfield. And after what we saw in this game, Jake, what are you thinking about this Ravens backfield?
It's better than what we might have worried about in going into week 2, but I just finished. Hi, Alex again, who jumped over from the show with Chris Media and All in Football. It really comes down to, it's similar to the Dolphins backfields for anybody that just finished watching that show. I'll say the same thing, so I'll leave more for you guys to chew on here, but it's the Dolphins backfield where he absorbs 50% of it. The other 50% are the other 2 running backs involved, but at least Tyson Williams is the lead. You have to worry about losing goal line carries to Murray, but at least he's the lead, and at least that's low-end RB2 value.
Yeah, I have shares of Tyson Williams. I don't have shares of any other guy. I'm kind of feel a little bit better about Tyson Williams right now than I did going into week 2. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm okay. I can kind of live with this. As Jake says, you can get maybe back end RB2 production, or even feel okay throwing him into the flex spot. Yeah, you worry about the goal line, but he's the youngest guy there, the freshest legs, and it kind of shows. It's like, we know what Latavius Murray is. I think if they're gonna end up leaning heavily on one guy ever, it seems like it's going to be Tyson Williams.
Yeah, 13 carries for 77 yards for Williams in this game. And you had Murray steal away the touchdown. As Jake said, Lamar's going to take so much off the table. That's really the concern here. But I'm with you guys, right? If you're invested in Tyson Williams, you probably feel better today than you did a week ago. And he had the better fantasy game a week ago at this time. So definitely reason to feel better about him after what we saw in that game against the Chiefs. And I think good reason to feel decent about Mecole Hardman. We're going to use Mecole Hardman in our next guy to jump into a quick waiver discussion for week 3. I say an ad where available because in most leagues, or in most formats, he is above a 50% roster rate. In Yahoo, he's at 53. You look at CBS, he's even up into the 70s. On ESPN, he's down in the 50s as well. So not a guy who all of us can go out and add, but for people who can go out and add Mecole Hardman, Brandon, I think really interesting after what we saw in this game. 8 targets for Mecole Hardman, caught 5 of them for 55 yards.
I don't know how much credence you put in matchup history, but weirdly, he's always shown up against the Ravens, so that's been something. But, I think you got to temper enthusiasm. This team's always going to be led by Tyreek Hill or Travis Kelce. Mm-hmm. It has a hard time giving Clyde Edwards-Hilaire's touches, So, yes, he's a piece that has to be added if he's out there, and but I just think the volatility will always be there. This was his high water mark in terms of targets. It was a 5-catch, 55-yard day. So it's like, okay, he's showing up on the radar, but it's not like this is a big splash. And I would just, like I said, temper enthusiasm. Don't go too crazy.
No, it's more like, look at what happened in week 1 too. The Ravens are beatable deep and with speed. So this is definitely more matchup. The snaps and opportunities are fine and exciting, but they're the same snaps and opportunities we saw in week 1 in the preseason. He's very on par with DeMarcus Robinson, and Tyreek Hill was obliterated from being on the page in that game. They just took him away. They said, we're done. We're no Tyreek Hill. Well, guess what? Travis Kelce and all the other wide receivers did it instead. So that's what happened. So you, as mentioned with Brandon, is you don't expect Tyreek Hill to be taken out. He's fine for a wide receiver 4, but it would be very matchup dependent. I'd be looking for defenses that play similar to the Ravens and are beatable deep.
Yeah, I think that's a good spot for Mecole Hardman, which does make him, I think, an ad in a lot of spots where he's available. Not all spots where he's available, but definitely there's enough juice here to want to get in on him. A tough loss for the Chiefs, and I'll say maybe an even tougher loss for those of us who jumped in on them when they were -3 at the very start of the week and just felt like we were cruising all night long, and then suddenly the rug totally got pulled out from underneath us. Is the rug getting pulled out from underneath Mike Davis? You guys, he had a lot of usage in this game for the Falcons. Their loss to the Buccaneers. Plenty of usage for Mike Davis, but a lot of usage for Cordarrelle Patterson as well, especially in the passing game where he had 6 targets, caught 5 of them. He had 69 yards from scrimmage. He scored 2 touchdowns. Mike Davis has yet to get into the end zone this season. Jake, you take this one first. Is Cordarrelle Patterson a thing to the extent that we're adding him on waivers right now?
No. That's the same way as it's not really a thing of Latavius Murray. I mean, I guess if you put it on waivers if something happened to Mike Davis, but you're never starting Cordarrelle Patterson. You're never, like, maybe desperation, they face the Lions and you have guys on bye, but we're not to the bye weeks yet. Like, that could kind of be a situation. But unless something happens to Mike Davis is still the lead. I've just compared it on the other show to it's basically James Robinson and Carlos Hyde. And Carlos Hyde is a thorn in the side, and it's capping the value, and you put Mike Davis on the James Robinson value level as their low-end RB2 flex running backs. But the other option is not really usable week in and week out.
See, I sort of disagree. I don't see how Cordarrelle Patterson is going away. If you just watch the game, like, there's so many different ways you use him. He was kind of the only real kind of heartbeat in this game for Atlanta, and it's kind of been that way for the first 2 games. And I don't think his usage goes down. I don't think it's necessarily going to have to be always at the detriment of Mike Davis because he's sort of got that joker that you can just line him up anywhere on the field. But I think Atlanta's decided Cordarrelle Patterson's going to be our X factor. He's going to be a part of this offense. I would say fairly prominently. I just don't think he had 6 targets, 5 catches. He could be, he could be the third down guy, but he could also play wide receiver. He could also, be running jet sweeps and all this kind of stuff. And I think that's what their plan is with him. So I would go out and get him. I just thought I was very intrigued by the way he looked.
Is he like Nyheim Hines? Like if Nyheim Hines has value in your league, does Cordarrelle Patterson then automatically have value in your league?
I mean, that's fine. They both got like 6 or 7 points. That's my point. Is that okay?
Without the touchdowns for Patterson.
Right. I'm talking about from the yardage standpoint. It's the same thing with Nyheim Hines, and it's the same thing with James White. It's all those ones. Yeah, if they score a touchdown, of course, it's great. It looks good, but you're banking on just like Latavius Murray days and that's why I brought him up, with the Saints. Yeah, Latavius Murray is fine getting his 40, 50, 60 yards behind Alvin Kamara, but without the touchdown, you don't really want him. Again, I'm not saying I'm not adding, but I'm not excited to. I just don't see getting into my lineup.
Yeah, I think that's really where it comes down to it. And with Mike Davis, we're going to talk about players that we are or aren't panicking on after 2 weeks. And Mike Davis, I think, could be part of that discussion. But if you're looking for the silver lining, 42 snaps, 28 routes, 7 targets, and 9 carries. And you don't like that Cordarrelle Patterson got the 7 carries that he got alongside Mike Davis, but still 16 opportunities after 21 a week ago. Hasn't been super productive, but he is getting the chances in this Atlanta offense. And we can use now Cordarrelle Patterson and Mecole Hardman to talk about week 3 waiver targets. Another week where, I don't know, guys, just thinking over recent years, I feel like this is the first time in a while that we've made it through 2 weeks without having a total slam dunk guy to go after. And I say that knowing what Eli Mitchell went for a week ago. I don't think any of us was on the bandwagon of thinking he was that slam dunk guy. I know we talked about it in the show a week ago, and then we got the Raheem Mostert news, but not to the extent, Jake, that you were actually getting him. I mean, I read your column. You said if you're desperate for a running back, you go 40%, and that came nowhere near winning Eli Mitchell anywhere.
I won him in my home league with $53.
So, all right, so you won him in one spot out of a billion where you didn't win him with $53.
No, and you went 13% higher than you said in your column.
Because just like somebody joked in my home league and said, you don't even follow your own advice. I said, my home league is a keeper league. in my home league. I know my home league spending. This is why I say fab all the time. This is why I give people a guide in fab. Is I don't put the actual percentage because you know your league better than anybody. I know my league better than anybody. I know that if you're in a keeper league where we keep the guys off waivers for potentially only $10 the next year, I know he's going to go for high 40s. So I did. Somebody went for 46 or so. So I got him for 53 because I also had Saquon Barkley, James Robinson as two of my top 3 running backs. My other one is really good. But again, I know my leagues. So yes, I do think he was a slam dunk. I still said he was a slam dunk and I would buy low and Trey Sermon at the same time.
Well, we'll talk about that San Francisco running back situation a little bit later, but let's look at week 3 waivers. I think there are a lot of paths you can go. There are a lot of guys to go after, but no one who it's like, oh yeah, he's the guy, regardless of positional need. He's someone who you want to get. So we talk about Mecole Hardman. We talk about Cordarrelle Patterson in shallower leagues. Maybe Zach Moss is out there for you. Maybe Rondale Moore is out there for you. Henry Ruggs could be in this discussion. KJ Osborne. Brandon, who's the guy at the top of your list, let's say, regardless of position, week 3 waivers, the one guy who is you're clicking in first no matter what?
You know, the guy that's on the list that you mentioned here and you just talked about, or not talked about, but brought his name up, is Rondale Moore. In 2 weeks, he's the guy that's flashed the most to me. I would say right now, if he's out there in my waivers, I'm going after him. Targeted 5 times out of the gate in week 1, 8 times in week 2. Watch him with the ball in his hand. We know that he is amazing, but it's just, getting that confirmation again each time. It's just exciting to watch this guy with the ball in his hand. There's no way that's going to go away because that's such a threat in that offense. And, he's been productive through the first 2 weeks. He's just a rookie. He's just going to get better. He's going to understand this offense better. It's just going to get, he's the guy I'm going in for this week.
Yeah, I'm going in to immediately flip him in a trade, though. I can't. He's still behind. We were just doing this last week with Christian Kirk. He's still behind Christian Kirk in snaps. He's still behind A.J. Green in snaps. You say it's not going to go away, Brandon. I think it can easily go away in any given game.
Well, in any given game, but you expect the snaps to grow as a rookie.
No, that's what I'm saying. I don't. Because he's blocked. They can't grow. That's the problem, is unless he steps past Christian Kirk, which I think he's the better talent. We go back to the bold prediction show. Beller knows it. I was joking. I said, this is the path he gets there. So I'm with you in the fact that if he gets past Kirk and now he's out there for 40 snaps every single week, I'm with you. If he gets past A.J. Green and A.J. Green goes toast, which he actually showed some burst in that game.
Scored a touchdown.
Yes, did score a touchdown as well and had a nice catch after that.
Yep.
If he gets there, yes, absolutely. But under 30 snaps every single week, I just can't do it. So I'm doing it to sell high immediately. So yes, I am picking him up. But if I need somebody, there's a couple names on here that I would add before I got to him that I need. And for this list that you just mentioned, I think the one that seems the outlier to the rest for me is, as bad as that offensive line looks, Devontae Parker. Will Fuller, there's rumors coming out of Miami that Will Fuller's not coming back to football, period. And they're joking on the Miami front saying it's Ricky Williams all over again, differently, but we don't know what's going on with him. Hopefully it's not life-family issues or whatever it is, but Devontae Parker, as much as it's 2 wide receivers, it's Devontae Parker and Jalen Waddle. Jalen Waddle, Devontae Parker. Targets. Gesicki's left out of the equation. It's 2 guys. I know that it might be Jacoby Brissett, but Jacoby Brissett has been productive and capable of throwing to wide receivers for his career. I like Mooney up there, Fields is at quarterback. And there's a lot of these receivers are the same. But if I want somebody I'm going out there and putting in as my wide receiver 3, the only person on the list for me is Devontae Parker.
I don't think it's a bad call. The one thing I would go back to on Rondale Moore is, even though snaps aren't as high, I think there's a higher amount of plays that are just specifically designed to go to Rondale Moore. So even when, it's not just like they're throwing him out there, and if he makes it in the progression of Kyler Murray, he gets the ball. I think there's, a handful of those plays that he's out there where there's this is the Rondale Moore play. And that's kind of, something that they looked like they were very evidently doing in the preseason, was designing plays for him.
Let's do a lineup. We could do a lineup review versus, you can have Cordarrelle Patterson, Zach Moss, Gainwell, Moore, and I'll take Parker, Pascal, Patrick, and who else is out there? Darnold and Mooney. I'll take all the volume guys. You can have all the high opportunity on touches.
Rondale Moore's got 14 targets through 2 games. He's maybe something of a volume guy.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's hard for me to trust that, defenses are smart. They're not just going to start, we'll let Rondale Moore beat us every single week.
So
I don't want Zach Moss, by the way. I refuse to accept him.
Get out of here.
He's got the highest touchdown rate on touches in the NFL.
Devontae Parker, for what it's worth, 9 catches and 16 targets so far this season, 123 yards. And if Will Fuller is indeed not going to play this season or is not going to play for a while this season, then it is easy to like Devontae Parker. Remember where he was just a couple of years ago in that Miami offense. We've got a question here about some of these guys. This one is coming to us from Alex. KJ Osborne, Hunter Renfrow, Zach Pascal. I mean, Osborne and Renfrow, to me, are both intriguing enough in deeper leagues with the work that they're getting in their offenses. And, we're going to talk about Derek Carr in a second here. We might have to recalibrate some expectations for this Vegas passing game. Where are you at on this one, Jake?
So all 3 of them, or are we just saying like all 3 are like they're all 3 in the waiver last week. KJ Osborne was the last one. It's Osborn, by the way. Can we do this right? Alex adding extra letters, putting a Z in there. Come on, Alex. So KJ Osborne, Renfrow, and Pascal are all in there. They were actually reverse order: Pascal, Renfrow, then Osborne. I would still keep them that as of today. Pascal is one of the top
Pascal
2.
First.
Yeah, Zach Pascal, of ODU, but he looks for him in the red zone. He actually was having a quiet day until a touchdown, but he's got that. I compared him to Adam Thielen. He's like, again, I'm not saying he's on Adam Thielen's talent level, but it's a similar usage where it's like, why, all of a sudden Pascal becomes a thing in the red zone. He's got the eye for him, even despite the fact that Michael Pittman is the better talent. So it's him. I think Renfrow, I've said this many times. I said in the waiver column wait, did you edit last week or did Nando did? I think Nando edited last week. But anyway, I said he's there, Cole Beasley. He's, if you want that, if you need that Cole Beasley half point, full point PPR. Osborne's fun. They're running a hell of a lot more 3 wide than they ever did, that being the Vikings. I still am always hesitant to have any third wide receiver on any team, even including the highest scoring offenses in the league. Because look at what just happened to Van Jefferson. Right. Van Jefferson was out there a lot again, but 3 targets, 1 catch. That could happen to Osborne any given week.
And will happen to Osborne eventually.
Yeah.
Don't have a whole lot to add. Osborne's the guy that's popped to me week 1, week 2. But as I said, we just gotta wait. I would wait on him a little bit and just see if this. How long you can stay consistent. I usually like the rule of 3. You like to kind of take a look at everything after the first 3 weeks, kind of get a sense of where things are trending.
Oh, I thought you were going to say 3 players. That's also good.
No, but I agree.
Like
the third receiver on a run heavy team like this is not too exciting.
Yeah, and it's not as though Adam Thielen or Justin Jefferson has been hurting for opportunities in the first 2 weeks either. So I could see wanting to pump the brakes there on KJ Osborne. I think you guys are going to pump the brakes on the way that I've worded this next thing, but I just had to word it this way because he certainly played that way through 2 weeks. Derek Carr, you guys, a monster game against the Steelers, and you can laugh about this all you want, but
that's not what I'm laughing. I'm laughing that you threw in like a Schwarzenegger accent in there. It's like, Derek Carr, you guys, like you heard it too, right?
Derek Carr, 817 yards and 4 touchdowns through 2 games. I mean, what are we thinking about him? This Vegas offense. I mean, this is 2 very impressive performances against defenses we generally put a lot of respect on in the Ravens and the Steelers. What do we got here, Brandon?
Look, me, I've been a Derek Carr fan. He's never not been a top 20 fantasy quarterback. Although, our colleague Michael Salfino called him top 12 in his column, this week. It's in the headline. I wouldn't go that far. But he's got some wide receivers that are starting to ascend. And, I think Derek Carr's good. I think he's solid. He doesn't run. And that's going to knock him out of the QB1 mix for me. And so that's what I'm going to say. But, I mean, what can you say about Derek Carr other than he is he's a good quarterback, doesn't probably get as much respect as he deserves, but you put talent around him, he can use it, and so that's a solid QB2 in super flex leagues or in 2 quarterback leagues.
He's 8th so far on the season for quarterbacks.
Eighth with all that passing.
Matthew Stafford.
There's just
and
no
Sam
running.
Darnold
That's the problem.
He's in front of Dak Prescott, and he's in front of
Dak didn't do anything.
He's in front of Josh Allen. He's in front of Joe Burrow, draft Joe Burrow, Ryan Tannehill, Justin Herbert. He actually has 20 more fantasy points than Justin Herbert. So just again, I'm throwing all those names out there, and we are kind of smiling and tongue in cheek. But I think the fact is, maybe Derek Carr is a fringe QB1 if they're going to keep passing like they're passing. Even week 1, even with Josh Jacobs out there, they're still passing a hell of a lot more. Yep. Henry Ruggs and Brian Edwards are involved a hell of a lot more. And if you're going to do similar to the Chiefs, if you're going to take away Darren Waller like they tried to do, and they did, they capped Darren Waller in that game. Yep. Well, guess what? Henry Ruggs, Hunter Renfrow, Brian Edwards, and then freaking Foster Moreau stealing the touchdown from Darren Waller. But they're just going to do that, and Kenyon Drake's going to get work out of the backfield. So, no, I'm not calling Derek Carr top 10, but if you want to say in the 11 to 15 range, which involves 2 spots of being a QB1, like right in that group, I'm not going to say you're wrong. I will say this.
I think he's Matt Ryan, who we thought Matt Ryan would be. I think
he could be. I was going to say through 2 games, if you told me Derek Carr or Ryan Tannehill, I'll go Derek Carr as of today.
You'll take him from this point forward.
Yeah, there's this again. The Titans' offense looked better, but they still had some concerns, and it was led a lot by Derrick Henry.
He should have had another touchdown pass. Tannehill should have.
Oh, well, yeah, okay, that on top of it. So
the Julio touchdown taken off the board.
I watched a hell of a lot of that game. There were still little hiccups in that Ryan Tannehill again, and a lot of it they did more, but the play action needs to come back up even more. It was better, but it still needs to come back even further.
Quickly on this one, on the other side of this game, obviously we've all got our fingers crossed for good news on Deontay Johnson after he suffered that knee injury at the end of the game. Rethinking anything with the Steelers, Jake? Anything that you thought a couple of weeks ago that you feel differently about now?
No, I think everybody saw that immediate panic for Najee Harris go right out the window. The same thing like that. Derrick Henry, that was a hell of a lot of fun. They're both back. Yeah. I will say it's the Ben Roethlisberger. Everybody was just like, why do you have Ben Roethlisberger around 20 if you have all 3 wide receivers inside the top 30? It's because you can do this. This Sam Darnold, Jared Goff, they've done it for years. Yeah. Ben Roethlisberger looks bad, and now he's blaming Cannon today. And it's like Canada. Yeah, whatever. So like he's saying like I don't know, talk to him about the play call. Really, Ben?
I did not see that.
Yeah, so that's my only concern. I hope my biggest concern is Deontay.
Yeah, we need that.
Please don't be hurt.
Another great game for Deontay.
I'm glad I have no shares of Deontay. I have not seen I have not seen him pop up from a tackle yet this year without holding something. He just seemingly gets hurt every time he gets touched. And whether it's a long-term hurt or whatever, he's soft. He is so soft.
I'm going to second Jake shut up, actually. Yeah. I'm going to second the shut up.
I'll say the one takeaway about this is what I said it on the other show. The one takeaway is I think that Pat Freiermuth, if you were chasing the tight ends of the Browns, if you were chasing the tight ends of the Saints, if you were chasing like those tight ends, I'd go get Freiermuth. He's already doubled. I think he was almost double Ebron snaps. He's already passed him.
And did did Ebron have a target in that game?
He's hurt, right?
Question. He was banged up, but it wasn't like
2 targets.
Yeah, 2 targets. Okay, so Freiermuth is clearly ascending beyond him. And speaking of ascending, this was something we thought we were maybe saving for the second half of the season. But do we think at all Michael Carter's happening? Do we think it's happening after this game? They got blown out. There was nothing really there for the Jets, but 11 carries, 59 yards. Ty Johnson had 12 carries for 50 yards. But I just feel like
come on, Jake, you got to give a little something.
After what happened in week 1, I would not have thought this was coming in week 2. Now I'll say it like that.
No, when I say it's still not coming in week 2, I put the Braveheart gift. Hold. Hold. This is what we were doing. Hold. This is like the sign. It's coming. It's even opportunities with Ty Johnson yesterday. Tevin Coleman completely left out. I'm not throwing Michael Carter into my lineup in week 3. The time is coming, but that's what I was saying. Hold. It was a good sign yesterday.
All right, so Funston, does it maybe feel like it's happening sooner than we thought it was after week 1, where things stood a week ago?
I took it's happening as there is movement out of
like maybe week 6 instead of week 9.
Yeah, I'm not saying
time out. I said week 6. Brandon can back me up with this. I said week 6 the entire time. I've said week 6 every single time.
Yeah.
All right, so we have a semantic difference here then.
What I'm saying is there was a tangible movement towards Michael Carter this week and away from Tevin Coleman. That's a win if you're Michael Carter rosterer this week is, okay, at least it's looking like Tevin Coleman is falling by the wayside. Michael Carter looked good. In my mind, he looked, from where I was at, he looked better than Ty Johnson. And as long as we can start, continuing this evolution that way, then we're going to be good. Yeah. He's going to Denver in week 3.
There you go, Brandon.
We're not starting Michael
That's
Carter.
Why
we get that.
I said you can get excited for week 4 Titans and Falcons in weeks 4 and 5.
There you go. So that's when we'll start getting
at Denver.
But the movement, he has made some forward progress, both literally in terms of 59 yards and figuratively in terms of where it seems like he stands relative to the other Jets in the backfield. So good news, I think, for Michael Carter in week 2, and bad news for Darrell Henderson with his injury. Obviously, another one that we're monitoring. Let's say we are in a world where Darrell Henderson is out, whether 1 week, 2 week, 3 weeks, whatever. Is it Sony Michel time, Jake, to the extent that he takes over the full share that Darrell Henderson would leave behind if he missed time?
Full share, maybe a little bit less in the passing game, but you look at the backfield and it's him, and don't bring the Jake Funk that everybody keeps joking about with that name. But that's really what it comes down to is they're probably, if we miss significant time with Henderson, bring somebody in because now they're only down to 2 running backs. But that's Sony Michel. That's why they made the trade for him. And yeah, Sony Michel will have RB2 value. I'd put him a little bit low. Like if you said Darrell Henderson going into this game, now no Darrell Henderson, Sony Michel going forward. If they were both in those situations and able to be ranked, that's what I'm saying. Henderson would rank above Michel. So he's getting the volume, but he would be a low-end RB2 where I had Henderson as a mid RB2.
Yeah, that's. I think that's a pretty easy place to stand on Sony Michel. And then on the other side of this game, we had Carson Wentz suffer the ankle injury, and then word coming out today that he's got injuries to both ankles. In a world where he's not playing, Brandon, what are you thinking about the rest of the Colts offense if Jacob Eason is their starter in Week 3?
Yeah, look, this Colts offense looked ugly. I mean, we don't even talk about Jonathan Taylor just getting
2 weeks in a row
stonewalled at the line, at the goal line, and then the receivers Pascal and Paris Campbell and Michael Pittman. Michael Pittman showed up in this one, but like each week, I'm not sure that's what's going to happen with these receivers, and that's the kind of the problem here. And if you put in Jacob Eason, who came in and threw a huge interception right away out of the gate. Yeah, I would just be steering clear in general. I'm not gonna try to follow Michael Pittman. If it's Jacob Eason, I don't know if I'm playing Michael Pittman this next week.
I am.
Yeah, you are
facing the Titans. Like as bad as Eason can be. We talked about this in the preseason. If this was going to be a situation with no Carson Wentz,
right?
More aggressive, more turnover. He's Jameis Winston, but like old Jameis Winston. Not the Jameis Winston throwing for 110 yards. He's old Jameis Winston, where he's going to take shots downfield with the bigger arm. And you can get some big plays. Of course, more interceptions, more potential balls that they don't catch. But going against the Titans, I would still take the chance with Michael Pittman.
Another monster game for Cooper Kupp in this one, you guys, and that's going to lead us to our discussion that we've got coming up where we're going to talk about players that maybe we're ready to panic on, or maybe we want to still take it easy with after just a couple of weeks of this 2021 season. Protein powders can feel intimidating and their formula is opaque, not just because they're a powder, but the truth is deep down, and we all need protein, and it's about more than just muscles. Ritual is here to change the protein game. It's traceable. You can see exactly where everything's coming from. You deserve to know what you're putting in your body and why. And with Ritual's one-of-a-kind visible supply chain, you're always able to know what's in the formulas, where the ingredients come from, and why they're included. Supports your daily health for tomorrow as much as today, made with nutrients to support bones, brains, and muscles and help maintain muscle mass as you age. It's a delicious vanilla flavor from farmer vanilla bean extract, sustainably harvested in Madagascar. So why not shake up your Ritual? Try making something new, a little bit less scary. Ritual offers a money-back guarantee if you're not 100% in love. Plus, our listeners are going to get 10% off the first 3 months. Just visit ritual.com/fantasy to add essential protein today. That is ritual.com/fantasy. Fantasy football season in full swing. We talk about this every Monday. We're trying to change our rosters, get them right. You want to remember that entire roster of body parts you have as well. Manscaped's going to help you do that. You can go get 20% off and free shipping with the code THEATHLETIC right now. 4th generation trimmer, the Lawnmower 4.0 coming in the Performance Package 4.0 features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents. It's got a 7,000 RPM motor. It's got a LED spotlight on it so you can see exactly what you're doing. And the Performance Package also comes with a Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, a crop preserver and crop reviver, and 2 free gifts, the Performance Boxer Briefs and the Shed Travel Bag. Again, 20% off and free shipping with the code THEATHLETIC at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with the code THEATHLETIC at manscaped.com. All right, guys, I want to get into the Chargers and the Cowboys and building off of what we were just talking about with Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods, maybe some panic time. But let's start with someone who we're not panicking on. Funston, victory lap it up. Get up, walk around that room you're in. Mike Williams, locked in fantasy starter. Is that true after what we saw in week 2, building on what we saw in week 1?
How could you not start him, right? Like, listen, the first thing that we the bluster of preseason, you got to not overreact. But when the offensive coordinator says he's the Thomas role, you got to get a little excited. And then when the first 2 weeks you get 12 targets and 10 targets, you get touchdown, and you get 90 plus yards. Like how can you not be excited? I mean,
Yeah.
That's exactly what we hoped would play out. We're seeing it play out. So, yeah, I think you have to put him in as a locked-in starter. He was the most targeted guy on the team in week 2.
7, 10, 91, and 1 for Mike Williams after the 12-target game he had in week 1. 22 targets from a quarterback we expect to be good and an offense we expect to be good. It might finally be happening for Mike Williams, and maybe it's happening in a way that we've discussed at least previously for Tony Pollard as well, you guys. He had himself a big day in this one. 13 carries, 109 yards, and a touchdown. Ezekiel Elliott was productive enough alongside him, but it was hard to watch this game and not feel like Pollard was looking like the better running back. And so let's talk about panic time. Some guys who we are maybe panicking on. Give me a yes, no, or maybe on each of these guys. And let's start it out here, Jake, with Ezekiel Elliott. Are you panicking on Ezekiel Elliott at all after what we've seen through 2 weeks?
No, I'm not, because the workload is still there. This is just their version of the Saints. Latavius Murray, Tony Pollard. If he doesn't score a touchdown, but, is it somebody you can start in a juicy match? Jamal Williams. Is there Jamal Williams? Is that a very similar situation? I'm fine on Zeke. If anybody's panicking, I'll buy Zeke. I still think that he's RB1, top 10 running back.
Yeah, 44 snaps to 21 for Tony Pollard. So, I mean, it's pretty large discrepancy. I'm not panicking either. I don't like Tony Pollard taking production away from Ezekiel because I have a lot of it. But, if as long as that's the snap count disparity, then I'm okay with that.
All right, Funston, next up, we got another running back. Your panic meter on Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Look, I don't have Clyde Edwards-Helaire anywhere because I was the lowest in the market on him probably. I think you got to look at – he should be Austin Eckler. They should be throwing to him and getting him 9 catches a game. Did they even complete a pass to him in this one? Did he catch a ball?
Not being used in the passing game.
Yeah. What are we doing here? And they don't really want to run the ball concern either. And so, I think this is a bit of a panic. But you can kind of see this. I mean, they didn't use him a ton in the passing game last year either. It was more. But, I think you got to worry about the usage.
Jake?
I thought we were going to the next guy.
No. I want you to. CH is a big one. I want you guys to weigh in on all these guys because these are important ones.
Okay. I thought we were kind of bouncing back and forth, and these were one of the only if you have something to add. So I will say I had him down at 20, I think, this week, and it feels like a solid spot. He's going to be a low-end RB2 because it's not the opportunities. He's out there more than anybody. Darryl got 3 to his work.
Got
and
the
he's
touchdown.
in that mid. Yeah. But that's the he's got the mid-teens. They do not want to use him at the goal line, and that's fine if you're going to be used in the passing game. But if you're not going to use him in the passing game, then he's going to continue to be. He's a low-end RB2. So if you need running back help, you could probably get him cheaper than that. People are full on panic mode. I brought up the trade with Chris. I said more panic, George Kittle versus Clyde Edwards-Helaire. If you could get Clyde Edwards-Helaire for George Kittle, I would immediately do it because running backs are harder to find. But that's kind of now the conversation you're having. He's a low-end RB2, and I think he's stuck right there. And Barkley's got to go poo-poo, so I'll be right back. I'm listening, so I'll comment when I come back, but she's got to do this. So there you go.
All right. Funston, how about Allen Robinson? Where are you sitting on him after a couple of games? Maybe you get a silver lining in that we could be seeing Justin Fields as the Bears starter in week 3.
Yeah, I think you got to put a pin on things. I don't think anybody who looks at Andy Dalton's skill set thinks that was a really good match for Allen Robinson. I mean, Allen Robinson's been like Terry McLaurin, where he's made any quarterback kind of work for him. But you do look at Justin Fields, and the upside of what Justin Fields' talent is jibes very well with Allen Robinson's talent. I think you have to just sit there and let this one play out because we assume we're going to see a bit of Justin Fields and see how that matchup might work. But I'm kind of optimistic about how this pairing could be.
Yeah, there was a big dropped touchdown actually from Allen Robinson after Justin Fields took over for the injured Andy Dalton, a ball that just went straight through Robinson's arms, and that would have been like a 40 or 45 yard somewhere in there touchdown from Fields to Robinson. So definitely felt like they were maybe on the same page right from the jump, even though Robinson didn't haul that one in. How about Josh Allen as a potential panic guy? There just hasn't been – what I'm concerned about here with Josh Allen, Funston, is that we haven't seen the efficiency or the explosiveness from the Bills offense. And that was a hallmark of this group last year. They were efficient, they were explosive. And even though they scored 35 points, it was another inefficient day for the passing game. And that, more than anything, would have me worried on Josh Allen. Not that I'm trying to get out of him, but more that maybe I feel like as QB2 back in draft season, maybe that was a little much for him.
Yeah, without really diving into the film and stuff, I'm just wondering, because they had so much success running the ball right now, if teams are really, just selling themselves out to not get burned by Josh Allen in the passing game. But right now, it seems like their best mode of attack is to use that running game. You're seeing Singletary, making big plays, and even Zach Moss came in and had a couple touchdowns. But yeah, Josh Allen, even last year, was a little bit slow out of the gate, if I remember right. So I'm not discounting the fact that he could just start getting on a roll here. I still can't wash away what I saw last year, which I thought he was just amazing. And not just one game, but like for 10 weeks at a time, just awesome. And I don't think that guy's gone away. It just might, it might just take a few circumstances to fall in place for that to get back to that.
Yeah, mild and 0 on Allen Robinson and 0 on Darnell Mooney. And I mean, it's like that.
Why do we skip Robert Woods? I was going to say 0 on Robert Woods too, but
no, we're not done with Robert Woods. We're not skipping Robert Woods at all.
Let him do his thing. Let him show here. But yeah, it's also that game was back and forth because Dalton came back. This hasn't been a week in an offense to set up for Justin Fields, which is not going to be the same offense. It's going to be a different offense. I would say there's a 1 on Josh Allen, mostly because he shows some second year flashes of Josh Allen versus last year. Yeah. Some of the decision making, some of the hesitancies for some of his throws. Again, Miami's a very good defense, though. Between that secondary with Xavier Howard and those two corners, which you could argue is top 10. So I think matchup, but see more in week 3. I think week 3 is the real tell. As Josh Allen goes out there third straight week of being this Josh Allen, then we're kind of maybe to 3 or 4 out of 5.
Yeah, maybe that's the discussion that we're having. We're not worried about him yet, but we could be if we're having a discussion like this a week from now. Funston, you say no worries at all for Robert Woods, even though he has taken a clear backseat to Cooper Kupp through 2 weeks.
Yeah, I know, but it's kind of like the DK Metcalf thing too, right? Like it can't always just be Tyler Lockett every week, and DK Metcalf's things are going to swing his way. And right now,
sure.
And the weird thing is you look at the Rams. You could say Matt Stafford's just been too efficient. I mean, they've thrown 30 and 26 times in 2 weeks, so they're averaging 28 pass attempts. There hasn't been a whole lot else when you're getting 10 of those that are going to Cooper Kupp, So I think, the pendulum will swing, but it's clear right now that Matt Stafford's number one guy is Cooper Kupp. So as long as he can continue to just, to have that connection going, it's probably not going to stop trying to tap into it. But I expect they're going to throw the ball more. And things are going to open up for Robert Woods a little bit more going forward as well.
I'm not really concerned either. He's still right on the same amount of snaps and getting some carries at the backfield, so he's getting some work. But, yeah, 1, 0. Not concerned about 0. Robert Woods.
Telling you to take it easy here after 2 weeks. All right, one person apiece for these last two guys. So, Jake, you've got Kenny Golladay. What's the panic level on him? I mean, I think the show as a whole was out on Kenny Golladay in draft season. So, relative to that, obviously you're not really changing the way you felt. Yeah. But let's say if you were a Kenny Golladay drafter, how concerned would you be right now?
Should be a 5, and you should have listened. Period. That's what it should. Kenny Golladay doesn't fit Daniel Jones. And if you watch that game, everybody's like, I was funny. Emery Hunt and I were texting during that game. And I was jokingly saying, could I get as many excuses as Daniel Jones gets in his career? Like, please. Like, when I start going sideways and, doing things wrong, hey, I do plenty wrong already, I know. But can I get as many excuses? Daniel Jones played a fine game going to Sterling Shepard, but Daniel Jones and Kenny Golladay do not fit. Kenny Golladay could have had 2 of those catches if Kenny Golladay had that ball placed a little bit better. He is a contested catch wide receiver. Daniel Jones doesn't throw into coverage well. He doesn't know where to place
he threw that one to him when he was covered.
I put all that on Golladay. If he's a contested catch guy, how does he drop those balls?
Because they're in a bad spot where the defender also got his hand on his arm and on the ball. You put that top right instead of right. Yes, 100%. Can I finish? You said one person each. If you put it in the right spot, and again, yes, we're talking like what he has to like pigeonhole something. No, but because this is an NFL quarterback, you put it where Kenny Galladay's hands are, not where a defender can get to. You don't put it in Kenny Galladay's chest. You put it up here where only Kenny Golladay can get it.
I think we're talking about different ones because he had kind of a crossing route that was a an elevated pass, and he went.
Oh
up
no,
with
but
his hand,
that's
and it went right through his hands. And the announcer, I forget who it was, even said like that should be caught. And then
okay.
you're talking about the deep
I'm talking about
ball.
the contested. No, I'm talking about the contested ones. That wasn't really contested. You're right. That was through his hands. That's through his hands. That was in the right spot. I'm talking about the two other ones. One being the deep ball, and then the one other to the side. That was basically thrown. Where if you put it like backside shoulder, if you put it above, again, all I'm saying, this is like we could sit here and nitpick every single throw going to Kenny Golladay. The point being is he doesn't fit Daniel Jones' skill set great, and he doesn't fit this offense
My issue
great.
with the whole thing was Kenny Golladay was not playing good enough to go over to Daniel Jones and berate him on the sideline. Like
He wasn't. They broke that down. He was yelling. Jason Garrett was behind him, sitting there before Daniel Jones got there.
Well, who was that guy? Who was that coach that I had never even? He looked like he was like a trainer or something.
I don't know, but no. Dan Dugan actually tweet or Duggan. Is it Dugan? It's Dugan, right? I always mess up his last name.
I think it's Duggan.
Duggan. I always mess up his last. I always think I'm about to say it right, and then I say it wrong. Anyway, he tweeted, and actually, when that whole thing we were talking about, Brandon, his tweet is like Kenny Golladay had been yelling before Daniel Jones even sat down. So he wasn't. If you look at it, it's kind of like he was probably yelling at Garrett before Daniel Jones got in there. So that's why. But point being, it's just not a good fit. That's what all it comes down to is it's not a good fit, Kenny Golladay or Daniel Jones.
All right, one more here really quickly. We're going to have to cut the back third of this show.
You made a show sheet for like 4 days worth of stuff.
I already told him that.
Look. Mistakes were made this morning. I got like my first good night's sleep in 5 months. I was feeling juiced up. We'll save some of it for Thursday. Anyways, Brandon Aiyuk, Funston, what's the panic level on him?
I think it's decent right now. I mean, come on, he played enough snaps to get more than one.
Disagreeing again.
Look, he got one catch. He was out there. I mean, he got ignored. So did George Kittle. I mean, I'm a little bit worried just about this passing game in general. Is there only one guy that's going to be able to show out each week? So, it was a soft competition game again. So maybe in more contested spots, they'll throw it a little bit more. And I don't know. I'm a little bit worried. If I had Brandon Aiyuk, I'd be a little bit worried after 2 weeks. Getting called out by the coach for not showing his talent over Trent Sherfield in the preseason, and then literally going out and doing nothing in 2 weeks. Well, I'm just saying it's what happened.
He gets both. This is.
Oh man, is that for Shanahan right there?
That's for Shanahan. Nobody believes. 0. I'm buying Aiyuk everywhere because here's why.
I kind of want to try that too.
He's not 100%, but that's the good thing. I agree. Like Brandon, it was a bad game, but you should have been. I don't think anybody was starting Brandon Aiyuk. I had him in the 40s because I had the upside if he did catch a touchdown. But look at the snaps: 38, 49 for Debo, 70 for Kittle, 43 for Mitchell, even exiting the game. He's not quite there yet, and that's what it really comes down to. Is I'm confident in the fact that he's already the second most snaps in his second game back. He's still not 100%. I think the Shanahan thing was one, making excuses, trying to gloss over the fact he's still not 100%. And then 2, just making
panicking is not the same as buying low. I'm not saying I wouldn't buy low. I'm saying if I drafted Brandon Aiyuk, I'm worried that I may have to, go out and sell him for 70, 60 cents on the dollar.
No, hold.
Right away. Yeah.
Hold.
Yet another hold guy here for Brandon Aiyuk. So that's where we're sitting on a lot of these guys who have fallen short of expectations in week 2. Now I got to make all these decisions here because the show was made way too long. Let's talk about the San Francisco backfield really quickly. I mean, obviously we're waiting on injury results and where these guys are standing, but do we feel comfortable that this is Mitchell clearly 1, Sermon clearly, not 1? I guess I don't even know if I would say 2, but in a world where everyone's healthy, is that how we're feeling about this backfield, Jake?
Yeah, because Shanahan's annoying. Shanahan's also been truthful about this. Sermon didn't get a single touch until Mitchell got hurt, and it was Hasty initially. Hasty had about, I think, 3 or 4 touches before Sermon got his, and unfortunately for Sermon, got hit in the back of the head, concussion / could be other stuff. I mean, that looked pretty bad. But Mitchell's the guy, and then Mitchell came back, and he's healthy, and Mitchell was the guy again, and Hasty even got a little dinged up. Mitchell is kind of in the Edwards-Helaire conversation, mid-low RB2, but he is the lead guy. Interestingly enough, somebody else brought this up, and I echoed the sentiment, is the fact that Sermon didn't spend a lot of time, as you well know, watching a lot of Big Ten over there, is Sermon didn't spend a lot of time lined up behind the quarterback in a traditional offense. A lot of times it was in a shotgunny offense, which Lance, that's what the offense should move to. Maybe that's what they're waiting for Sermon, and he's not adapted to playing behind the quarterback. So that takes some time, and that could be good for Sermon. But for all intents and purposes, it doesn't matter because Lance might not even start till week 15. It is Elijah Mitchell for now. Yeah.
Nothing to add, just to help for expediency here.
Let's get on to, so we talked a little bit about Justin Fields. So far, it seems like nothing serious for Andy Dalton. It seems like they're ruling out any ligament damage. They're calling it a bone bruise. Would have to imagine Justin Fields starts in week 3 at Cleveland, and then week 4, if he still is starting, that is at home against the Lions. So a good opportunity for Justin Fields here over these next couple of weeks, and then we feel pretty good about Allen Robinson, Darnell Mooney, really the entire Chicago offense. The other side of that game, the quarterback on it, I want to talk about that, you guys, because we were just loving the potential volume for Joe Burrow this season. 27 attempts in week 1, 30 in week 2. Is it time to recalibrate volume expectations for him in this passing game, Jake?
Unfortunately, I think it is. I don't know what's going on. Meany said it to me is that, there's actually been talk from our own athletic site that they're running a conservative offense through 2 games, whether that's because Joe Burrow's not 100%, whether that's because they're trying to lean on Mixon with a questionable offensive line, whatever it might be. Mm-hmm. The offense has been conservative. It's been fine for Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. We're not concerned there. We're concerned if the QB1 that you have is Joe Burrow, and I'll admit at this point I have some concerns. He's my only quarterback in the flex leagues. I have some because he needs to catch up to even be in the conversation to be leading the league in pass attempts, which I thought could happen this year. So hopefully this changes moving forward as maybe Burrow gets healthier and they see that this isn't winning games for them. But it did well through week 1, not so much in week 2. It is, I'd say, on a 1 to 5 scale, 2 to 3, somewhere around there.
Yeah, I think, and last year, I don't know that they were in games like they've been in this year as well. But when we were talking about Derek Carr, I wanted to bring up Joe Burrow because I think you're at the point now where it's only been 2 games, but you kind of would be like, maybe I'd rather have Derek Carr than Joe Burrow at this point.
And it's way different. I mean, when we're talking about where they were getting drafted, I mean, you were looking at a much different team build if that was the route that you went as well. So, yeah, I'm all over Joe Burrow. I've got him in a ton of leagues, and it was a lot of volume base that we were doing that on, and I think that there is reason to be concerned about that volume. I mean, obviously the Bears got to him for those 3 straight interceptions, but he still is doing well enough with the volume that he's had, but we wanted this to be sitting at, 37 and 40 attempts, not 27 and 30 attempts in his first 2 games. So definitely recalibrate those expectations as things are looking for the Cincinnati passing game through 2 weeks. Many small business owners busier than ever now, and time spent searching and interviewing candidates can take time away from managing and growing a business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs has made it easier to get the candidates worth interviewing faster, and it is free. Create a free job post in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs to reach your network and beyond to the world's largest professional network of over 770 million people. Focus on candidates with the skills and experience you need. You can use screening questions to get your role in front of only the most qualified people, and then use the simple tools on LinkedIn Jobs to quickly filter and prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates worth interviewing faster. Did you know every week nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn? Post your job for free at linkedin.com/fantasy. That's linkedin.com/fantasy to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. After years of fine print contracts from Big Wireless, we've learned that there's often a catch, but with Mint Mobile, there isn't one. Mint Mobile is the first company to sell wireless service online only. By cutting out retail stores, there's no crazy overhead costs that get passed down to you in the form of mystery fees. Instead, Mint just passes on sweet savings directly to you. For people looking for extra savings, Mint Mobile offers a premium wireless plan for just $15 a month. All plans come with unlimited talk and text, plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and keep your same phone number along with all of your existing contacts. If you're not 100% satisfied, Mint Mobile has you covered with their 7-day money-back guarantee. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and get the plan shipped to you for free, go to mintmobile.com/fantasy. That's mintmobile.com/fantasy. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/fantasy. All right, guys, just a couple of more topics for us to get to here. I do want to have a little bit of a trade discussion. Obviously, we can't get too deep into it. We'll save some of it for Thursday, but I want to use Marvin Jones as the cipher through which we look at this trade discussion, because Marvin Jones has been a very productive guy through weeks. He's had touchdowns in both games for Jacksonville. This is someone who we were on in a big way in draft season. And it does feel as though he is the number one receiver for Jacksonville. And so often in the fantasy world, we talk about buy low candidates. And it's a nice thing to talk about, but it's not always as easy as we want to make it seem. I like talking about buy high candidates, guys who people are assuming, this guy's had 2 good weeks, but he's not really this good. I'm going to go sell him high. Is there anyone who you think, and maybe Marvin Jones is a guy who could fit this bill, is a buy high candidate, a guy who has seemingly outperformed expectations through 2 weeks, but you think this can be who he really is? Jake, why don't you take this one first?
Yeah, I'm going to include the other wide receiver that I kept saying time and time again with these two. I still haven't got my Volume is King t-shirt yet. I should be working on this, but Marvin Jones and Brandon Cooks on so many of my teams. So many times I pounded the table for them in the preseason. Volume is king. Yes, go buy. I don't even care if Davis Mills is the quarterback. I don't care. I told you, I don't care if I'm throwing him the ball. If you're going to give me that kind of volume and that target. What was Brandon Cooks' target share, by the way? It was like 60% this week. Like, just go get these guys.
Yeah, Brandon Cooks. I was not expecting. I thought he was going to have a down week, and so far so good on him. I like all these guys. I'm in on Mike Williams. Jake and I were both in on Sterling Shepard as being like just ridiculously disrespected. I'll say Deebo Samuel too. I would buy high on Deebo Samuel. I mean, he's averaging double-digit targets in the first 2 weeks. As much as you think Aiyuk might rebound, we're still only talking about there's not a whole lot of other guys. What do you think about Trent Sherfield as a thing? It's right. Really Deebo and Aiyuk eventually, but right now Deebo's the one who's showing up each week. So I would buy high on him as well and throw him into that group.
Yeah, I think you could. It's really a wide receiver heavy group. I think you could put Sterling Shepard in there. I think he really fits what the Giants are going to be doing offensively this season. Mike Williams, who we talked about earlier in the show, I think he could fit in there with the role that we've seen him play for the Chargers through the first couple of weeks of the season. I think all those guys, there's reason to believe that the first 2 weeks of the season are for real and the sort of players they are going to be the rest of the way. Let's look at the other side of this just really quickly, some buy low candidates. And I do want to get into this a little bit more on Thursday, but we're running out of time on this episode. Brandon, anyone who jumps out at you as a nice buy low candidate through 2 weeks? And again, let's be realistic about it. Someone who you think the current manager would actually be willing to sell at a price lower than what they were gotten at on draft day.
Well, I'm just looking at your list that you put down of guys, and the guys I like. I mean, Najee Harris. Look, at this offensive line isn't good, but you saw he actually had a good day because of the usage. And what we've said is like volume. Doesn't matter if it's on a bad team with a bad offensive line. You get the volume, it's going to work out for you. And I think that's, Pittsburgh's still got a long ways to go in run blocking, but I expect that this will just continue to get a little bit better. And I just got done watching A.J. Brown that entire game. He left a lot of points on the field. He had a couple balls that he should have had. But he, to me, he's the number one guy there. I know Julio Jones had 100 yards before halftime, but A.J. Brown still looks like, when you're watching the game, like the number one guy in the passing game.
I think that's a realistic one, too. With what Julio did, and he should have had the touchdown, too, and you just haven't gotten much from A.J. Brown, I think that one is actually doable. I think you could pull that off. Jake, anyone you want to throw into this discussion?
You have him on the list. Buy low for perception, maybe, is Devontae Williams. Still was better again. And if you watch the game, looked better than Melvin Gordon again, outperforming him more clearly on a per-touch basis this week for people that only look at the box score so you can see it this time, unlike week one. But it's going to be him as more of a commanding lead at some point. Again, this is similar to Michael Carter. You had to be patient, and maybe some people aren't because they see the split going forward and that it's working for them so far. So I would buy low Devontae Williams on people who think that Melvin Gordon's going to be a thorn in his side the entire year.
Yeah, and that's another one that I think is realistic when you just compare their numbers against each other. Melvin's a little bit built up by that 70-yard touchdown run that he had in week one. I think that is one that you could probably get away with as a buy low candidate. I'll throw one guy out there as well. I'm going to preface this by saying I probably need to be 2-0 if I'm going to do it. But I would just go check in on the Odell Beckham manager and see what they're thinking. 2 inactive, still recovering from that injury from last year. Jarvis Landry also injured as well. Yeah, maybe depending on the size of your league, Odell could get dropped. But this is one I would check on and just see how low you can go and get Odell. Because if and when he does come back, I think that he could be someone who is very useful and should still be the wide receiver one in that Cleveland offense. I got to be 2-0, not even doing it at 1-1, but if I'm 2-0, OBJ owners panicking a little bit, understandably so, I would go ahead and take a look at that. One more thing before we wrap things up here, something you're going to be watching for in the Monday night game between the Packers and the Lions. Jake, what do you got here?
I'm looking for DeAndre Swift to look good again, even in what potentially could be a backwards matchup of what we expect the Packers to have done in week 1. So I'm not concerned about Aaron Jones, not concerned about Devontae Adams, not concerned about Aaron Rodgers, like none of that. So I just want to see DeAndre Swift get that same like 60-40 split we saw in week 1.
I'm gonna be watching for 80 yards and a touchdown from Marquez Valdez-Scantling. I've played the lottery ticket on him. I like the 8 targets in week 1. Didn't work out that well. It was 3 catches, but this is the Lions, and look, I looked it up. Scantling scored in like 8 games. His last 8 games he's had touchdowns have been 7 of them have been 80+ yards and a touchdown. So when he goes big, when he gets in the end zone, he usually goes pretty big, and I think that's going to happen tonight.
And that's the guy to look for, really, on Green Bay, because Jake's right. We shouldn't be panicking on any of those big 3. Rodgers, Devontae, Aaron Jones, they're going to do their thing. That's no doubt about that. Do it tonight. They're going to do it this season. But if there's another guy in this Green Bay offense who can be developed and do something of a consistent starter, MVS is almost certainly that guy. We heard it at the end of training camp. He's the number 2 receiver. We saw it in terms of the usage in week 1. If he can get something going, then maybe he is not an every week starter, but someone who is on the fringes of that discussion and then factors in as the season drags along. So definitely a guy to keep your eye on in the game between the Packers and the Lions tonight. Thanks for keeping your eyes and your ears on us here at the Athletic Fantasy Football Podcast. If you are indeed listening to us on this Monday, this is the last day to take advantage of our 50% off deal, 50% off a subscription to The Athletic. Go to theathletic.com/fantasyfootballpod to take advantage. For Brandon Funston and Jake Steely, I'm Michael Beller. Thanks again for watching on YouTube. Thanks again for listening. The 3 of us are back on Thursday when we'll talk week 3 rankings and maybe some of the stuff we didn't get to today. We'll talk to you then. Have a great day. We'll see you all soon.